Please continue.
So the press and the request for press went silent after the defamatory statements were made, and which then the negative social media campaign ensued after that.
Now, what factors relating to social media does the entertainment industry rely on when considering an actor for a role?
Social media becomes a big part of how studios decide to use an actor. $1.2 million negative statements between April of 2020 and November or January of 21. It's a lot of negative publicity, and there was just a lot of what we call noise around Ms. Heard and her work of any kind.
Can you please describe to the jury what a negative social campaign is?
So, a negative social campaign would be when a fan base, or in this case, according to both the forensic statistical analyst as well as Ms. Heard's agents and the product that she was working with, L'Oreal, and her publicist, it was a campaign that included both live accounts, live Twitter, people that actually have are individuals, as well as what we call
objection.
bots.
May I be heard?
All right, here come.
I gotta go back for this also. I'm super tired. I just think that overall she's being a little bit dishonest for no reason. I think that they, for some reason, I don't necessarily agree with them going on a stand and as professionals making like dishonest statements.
All right. Other than the bots, please describe the rest of the social media, the negative social media campaign.
The bots.
What's
The fan base was very energized by Mr. Is it the Depp Wald?
Yeah, let me just
Is it
ask
Depp Waldman? I'm
Yeah,
sorry. There's a lot in my brain right now.
It doesn't matter. Why don't I do this? Let me formulate a different question. How has the negative social media campaign been used against Amber Heard since the Depp Waldman statements?
Great. So the negative campaign has been used both to, let's fire Amber off of Aquaman, to the product that she had an endorsement contract with L'Oreal, the makeup. And every time that L'Oreal mentioned Amber Heard and the product together, they would get harassed. Her publicist company was harassed. Any kind of movie that she was related to or television project that she was related to got negative attention.
So you're
going to
blame third parties?
Even the charities that she was involved with were getting hammered, if you will, or bombarded by negative social media, which made it difficult to work with Amber on any level because negativity was brought to their product, service, or
So you're going to blame the fans?
Okay. And is that negative social media campaign ongoing to this day?
Yes.
Okay. And you were talking a little bit before, I think, about remove Amber Heard from Aquaman 2. What were your observations with respect to that in connection to the Depp Waldman statements?
Again, the statements, the social media campaign, whether called, remove Amber from Aquaman or, negativity for her relationship in that film, it always tended to use words that were inside the defamatory statements. They became hashtags, right? So, if it was said in the defamatory statement, they were often reiterated in the tweets and the posts.
Okay. How difficult is it for an actor to repair this type of negative social media?
Well, first of all, it has to stop.
Very important to notice.
So once it stops, then an actor and their team can work slowly and patiently in both, maybe it's press interviews, maybe it's relationship with charity, maybe it's a small role in a movie and they do well and they kind of rebuild their career. But it can take 2, 3, 4, 5 years or more to rehabilitate your career. But first and foremost, it needs to stop. It just needs to stop so that they can, the consumer can get beyond it, and then they can reactivate their career by doing their work again.
Describe Amber Heard's reputation after the Depp Waldman statements.
Well, the reputation, I guess, depends on who you're talking to, but in the public, it's been very negative. In the industry, they like her work, but they can't work with her right now, again, because every time her name is mentioned, the negativity flares up again. So it doesn't make sense for them to try to make a movie which costs millions of dollars. And
Where's
have a lot
the
of
spine?
negativity towards the film or the TV show or the product. So her world has been
Fuck the fans. Fuck the
silence
outrage.
in terms
Stand up
of
and say, fuck you
opportunities,
guys.
and even things that she wanted to work on are no longer available to her.
Has Amber been able to obtain roles after the Depp Waldman
They will
statements?
still consume and they know that.
For a long time, no.
Anything
Very
else is
recently,
irrelevant.
She was able to do a small independent film from some people out of who get their financing out of Europe. But up until that, no, she has not worked.
Outrage Andy on Twitter. Do not
No.
depict the fan base of anybody.
Based on the fact
Dog
that
shit.
Amber came out of Aquaman, what should her opportunity, what would you have expected following the release of Aquaman, December 2018, up to what's going on now?
I like to call Aquaman really, Amber Heard's Star is Born moment. It was that moment where not only was she a good actor, but she was now world renowned because she was in the most successful film almost of all time, if not all time, and certainly for DC Comics. She was on the poster with the very handsome Jason Momoa, and they were this couple, and she was strong and beautiful, and it was just this extraordinary moment for her career to take off, right? Her agents were excited, the producers were excited.
6.8 on IMDb.
Everybody just wanted to hit the ground running, and let's do more. Let's do more work.
What, if anything, happened to Amber's participation in Aquaman 2?
So for a moment in time, in February 2021, there were conversations that Amber's, I'm going to be technical with you, her option for employment was not going to be exercised. So they may not have hired her again, even though she had a contract for it. There was some question as to whether she was going to be hired again on Aquaman 2.
All right. And did ultimately then she still get hired for Aquaman 2?
She did. Her management team fought very hard, and they ultimately ended up hiring her, but also not only because of what her management team did, but Jason Momoa, the star.
Wait, but there's
and
no
James Wan,
Aquaman
the
2,
director,
and she's not in
committed
it.
to her
So
in an email
therefore,
saying, if
no
we are involved
damage,
in this
right?
movie, you will
Objection,
figure.
no foundation, hearsay.
Right?
Sustain the
Don't
objection
say
to
what the
hearsay.
email said, just summarize it or describe it,
Oh, okay.
please.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand this world. So her management team worked hard, and Jason Momoa
What?
and the director were adamant that she was in the film.
Objection, hearsay.
Worked hard
I think
to be in the film.
Your Honor, she has to be able to say that.
Well, sustain as to hearsay. Next
Right.
question.
So what, if any, assurances did Mr. Momoa and Mr. Wan give Amber that she would be in Aquaman 2?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
What, if any, are you aware of any chemistry issues between Amber and Jason Momoa from Aquaman?
According to the fact that they did a chemistry test with Ms. Heard and Jason Momoa in order for her to be hired, that is a good indication that they thought the two of them had good chemistry. Obviously, when you look at the movie, they have good chemistry, and the poster, they have good chemistry. So I think it's general
Like
awareness that they
chemistry
had
tests?
good chemistry.
And what, if anything, would also suggest,
poster?
with respect to Aquaman 2, that Jason Momoa believed they had good chemistry.
He wanted her in the movie.
Okay.
Hearsay.
I think she has to be able to rely on.
Sustained. I'll strike it from the record.
In your review of all of the record evidence, what, if anything, did you see in writing anywhere that there was ever any chemistry or creative issue with Amber Heard and Jason Momoa from Aquaman 1?
There were no communications whatsoever that there was no chemistry between the two.
And what, if anything, did you, in all the record evidence, did you see that the producer or Jason Momoa did not want Amber Heard in Aquaman 2?
I did not see any evidence of that.
Okay. In fact, the opposite, correct?
Correct, again.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, what, if any, leverage did Amber Heard have to renegotiate her salary under the circumstances of the discussions you were talking about with not exercising her option?
She had zero leverage. She was fighting for her life to stay in the film.
Okay. Now, is it typical for an actor to be able to
Wait, zero leverage?
negotiate an increase in their salary after a successful franchise?
So you may know this already, and so I apologize if you've heard it before. I don't know what's been brought to your attention, but in a franchise such as a potential franchise as Justice League and Aquaman, the customs and practice is that the studio will make an agreement with the actor that incorporates potential future films. So if Justice League does well, they want to know what they're going to pay the actor for the next one and the next one and the next one. And in those successive terms in the contract, the fee for that actor customarily goes up. It can go up by 10%, 20%, 100%. It could double, what have you. And in the case, as Ms. Kovacevic stated in her testimony, that in a successful franchise, that a movie that's made $1 billion, the actors' agents will go back and try to renegotiate that upcoming price tag. So if it was going to be X, they might want it to be 2X or 3X. And that's very standard in the industry, to renegotiate your contracts when there's many films in one single contract that each have their own price points.
Okay, it makes sense, yeah.
What, if any, other actors in Aquaman 1 were able to renegotiate their contracts?
Jason Momoa renegotiated his contract very significantly from Aquaman 1 to Aquaman 2.
Do you know roughly how much more?
It went up from the, somewhere between $3 and $4 million to $15 million.
Okay.
5X,
Did Amber have
decent.
a contract for Aquaman 1?
Yes.
How much was she paid for Aquaman 1?
Aquaman 1, she was paid $2 million.
Okay. And and did that same contract provide for if she was in Aquaman 2?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Aquaman 1, I believe she got $1 million. Aquaman 2, she was supposed to get $2 million. I apologize. The numbers, there were a lot of numbers in that one contract. So Aquaman 1, it was $1 million. Aquaman 2, it was going to be $2 million.
All right. Now, based on your experience and knowledge in the industry, how much would Amber Heard have been able to negotiate her contract but for the Depp-Waldman statements? For Aquaman 2, I'm asking.
Right. Well, as you can see from Mr. Momoa's contract, that went up exponentially, up to $15 million. Ms. Heard, I don't know if she would have gotten $15 million for the movie, but she certainly could have increased it by $1 or $2 million or even doubled it. So if it was 2, it could have been 4 or even 5 or 6, depending on the enthusiasm if it had just rolled from Aquaman 1 to Aquaman 2 without any of this negativity that was created by the Waldman.
Counter sweep for 100 mil.
What, if anything, happened to Amber's role in Aquaman 2 after the Depp-Waldman statements?
It was diminished.
Oh no.
Now, why would Amber have been featured more prominently in Aquaman 2?
Objection, no foundation.
If only a foundation.
Okay. What usually determines,
People
are you
consume
able
Aquaman
to
because it's Aquaman.
speak to whether
But the
Amber
movie is dog
should
shit.
have been or would have been more prominently featured in Aquaman 2?
Well, a couple things.
Wait, I'm trying to get your foundation. Are you able to speak to that?
Yes.
Okay. And please tell the basis of that and then your opinion.
So there's two things. When two actors do well in a romantic relationship and, they get married or they're going to have a baby, you want to follow that through, because part of what did well in Aquaman was not only the action sequences, but to have a strong female character having a relationship with a strong male character, it's very empowering, right? So that was working for them in the first place. The poster of Aquaman that went around the world was, one of the main posters was of the two of them together standing proud and strong, right? Being that couple. And so naturally, as you go and develop scripts in the industry, you want to follow on the things that are working. And according to Ms. Heard, when she read the first script for Aquaman 2, she had a strong romantic arc for the entire film. And then she also got to do some great action sequences at the end of that storyline in that script. So she was featured predominantly throughout the script of Aquaman 2 when she first read it.
All right, and then what happened?
Well, she didn't hear anything, so she wasn't getting the scripts when her colleagues were getting the scripts. She heard that through her agents. And then when she got the script, it was pared down from the first script dramatically. They had her in the hospital very shortly in the first part of the movie called Act 1. They had her in the hospital, and they pretty much had her in the hospital, and then she was going to do this action sequence in the end. She trained 5 hours a day for several months with a trainer to do this big action sequence. And then when she got to set, two things happened. One, the costume designer said, I don't know what happened to your role. It got diminished. And
Objection,
two,
hearsay.
Sustained.
All right, go ahead with the second
okay.
one. That's
And
all right.
more importantly, though, this big action sequence that she was going to do at the end of the movie, in the third act, was cut out, and they took it away from her. So it was radically reduced from what it was in the script and what she even trained for while she was preparing for the movie.
And what, if any, changes were made to the storyline?
I haven't seen the movie yet specifically, so I can't really speak to that yet.
All right, and when you say she was in the hospital, what do you mean by, was she injured in the first scene?
I believe that in the first
that
act
the
of the
poster?
movie,
What is
she
this
was
shit
injured
then?
somehow or has something to do with the baby. I don't know exactly. I'm just going with what Ms. Heard told me about, was that she ends up in the hospital early in this new Aquaman 2 movie and doesn't really come out till the end to kind of wrap things up. But
Okay, stop.
all of the interactions with Momoa's character and certainly the action scenes were taken out.
Okay. How has Amber typically been involved in promotions for her films?
As we talked about earlier, actively involved in the press and the promotion, whether that was on the press junkets, what we call when they tour the world and the actors tour together and answer questions from the press at various screenings and film festivals. And then also she was, on the cover of magazines, usually after her movies, especially after Justice
this is the
League.
one.
And how was the promotion of Aquaman 2 affected by the Depp-Waldman statements?
Ember has not been involved in any of the promotion that's been done to date, or very little, particularly in teasers that I've seen. We call short little films about the making of and so forth. She's not
Amazon Prime or
featured
Twitch
in them.
Prime.
And
Fucking
also very specifically,
almost on
there
another
was a
game.
big
Let me
event
open
that
direct.
Warner Brothers put on during the fandom. I think it was a DC fandom event, which is a big kind of like Comic-Con style event. And they invited all of the actors, or the majority of the actors that have strong roles in film, to participate both in the posters and the artwork, and also participate at DC fandom. And Ms. Heard was not invited to either be in the poster or be at the event. And in fact, they told her she cannot come.
Now, can this hurt Amber's career, not being allowed to be in any of the promotional materials?
Absolutely. It means that nobody knows about her. She doesn't have the same part in the film. It's not going to take her on to her next movie. She's not being associated with the tremendous amount of promotion that's going to be made for this, movie that everybody's looking forward to see. So she's not a part of it because of this negative campaign.
How have the Depp-Waldman statements affected any other films or TV project promotions for Amber?
So prior to the defamatory statements, but either around after or around the time that Aquaman 1 came out, she was in the TV show called The Stand. It was based on a Stephen King novel. So big book, going to be a big TV show. And again, Ms. Heard didn't do any press or promotion for that for the same reasons.
And what, if any, plans were there to have Amber Heard on the cover of LA Style relating to Stand before the Depp-Waldman statements?
Right, so Ms. Heard was in, and they had done an article about her participation in this TV show, The Stand, the Stephen King novel related TV show, and they were going to give her the cover picture and cover story, and they took that away. I don't know if the article existed, but they certainly took away the cover picture and the cover story.
Okay. How have the Depp-Waldman statements affected press requests for Amber?
There aren't any. So yes, they affected it because there used to be a lot of press requests, and now there aren't any.
Has Amber Heard obtained any roles since the Depp-Waldman statement?
Again, for many years, no, for a good period of time, or a year and a half, 2 years, until she got this small movie called Into the Fire.
Okay. Has Amber obtained any studio movie roles since the Depp-Waldman statements?
No.
How, if at all, have Amber's philanthropic opportunities been affected by Depp-Waldman statements?
Again, she
Chat.
had some passion
50
projects.
prime,
She was
50
invited
subs
to do some
to
charity
100K.
work,
I'm
and
not
she
a-
also had her own passion projects
I'm
that
not a
she
big milestone guy, but
loved
it's
and
gonna-
wanted
it's
to be
gonna- it's gonna
involved
affect
with and
man.
to travel for. But they decided it wasn't going to be a good idea because every time she appears anywhere,
Huge.
the social media negativity campaign starts up again. So she hasn't been able to do any of her charity work.
Come
What
on,
is
chat.
an endorsement?
Plug it in.
So an endorsement is when an actor associates themselves with a product, either for print promotion or commercials, like
Oh, charity.
Jennifer Aniston doing the water, or Matthew McConaughey doing the car commercial. That's a product endorsement. He's paid to say that the product is good and be associated with the product.
Yo, 650 temps. Much
How important are those endorsements to the
Big love, dude.
actors in the entertainment
That's huge.
industry?
Well, very, very important on
Holy
two
heck,
levels.
that's insane.
One, they bring a good amount of income to them when they're not shooting a movie, so it's a good way to make money in between film roles. And then also, it shows the studios and the production executives and the financiers that
Actually
the
insane.
actor is
Thanks, chat.
relevant in
Big
the
love, man. Thanks,
community
everybody in
because
chat.
they're being associated with a product. So if it's a well-known product, that's really great. If it's a medium product, that's great, and so forth and so on. So you want to be, if you can, and if that's something that you like to do, not everybody does, but if they like to do that, then they can get a lot of value out of those product endorsements because then the studios see that there's a connection with the consumer, not just on the film, but also with product.
Did Amber have any endorsement activities prior to the publication of the Depp-Waldman statements?
Yes.
Please explain.
So Amber was hired by L'Oreal to be a product and endorse their product, the makeup line. And she had a $1.5 million contract for 2 years. And they were able to work. They had 20 days of her work. They had the right to work with her for 20 days. And she started the work. And then when the defamatory statements came out, they essentially put a pause on working with her. So they no longer brought her to photo shoots. They no longer had her do public events for the product. And it basically said, we love you, but we can't work with you right now because it's just too much.
Objection, hearsay.
All right.
Did she still get paid, though?
I'll sustain the objection. Next
Okay.
question.
Have the Depp-Waldman statements affected that deal in any way with L'Oreal?
Well, they put it on pause and haven't done any of the work, so she's not out there in the public eye related
That
to
is
the product.
not what she asked.
And they have decided to continue working with her at some point once, as I said, this all quiets down, this trial is over, and hopefully the negative campaigns will stop. So they extended her
Give
contract,
Chen
but they
an
did not pay her
a
for that
badge in
extension.
chat and see what happens.
And has Amber been hired for any other endorsement deals
We
since
haven't
the
given badges in a
Depp-Waldman
while.
statements?
No.
Now, did you assess Amber's losses as a result of the Depp-Waldman statements?
Yes.
What did you do to assess those?
Well, first of all, I looked at Amber's career directly, so I wanted to see, as I said earlier, she worked consistently, and then she was on this kind of very large upswing with the big movies, Justice League and Aquaman, and all of that, and The Stand with the Stephen King project. And then
I
it
fucked
stopped, right? So her work stopped. And then I looked at other actors that kind of grew up at the same time frame. Grew up meaning they started their career and had the same time frame to start going from the smaller projects to the well-known director projects to the big movie projects.
Oh my God,
and I
so
looked
dumb.
at those actors, and I then saw after they had their Stars Born moment, if you will, I wanted to see where their careers went. So I looked at several actors to see, including Jason Momoa, her co-star, to see what happened in their careers after such a successful film as Aquaman came out.
And why did you use that method of analysis?
It's a very common methodology in the entertainment industry to work with what we call comps. I think Ms. Kovacevic even used that word comp. With films, you try to find comparable films. With actors, you look to see comparable actors. So you can it's not a distinct actual, this is going to happen, but this is the probability with a reasonable certainty that with the right management team that she had and her acting ability and her looks and the press that she was getting and should have continued to get, that her career would have been similar to these other actors.
Have you used that method in other cases in which you've been an expert on damages?
Yes, I have.
Who did you select as comparable actors for your comparison?
Well, I wanted to look at actors that were in superhero films that had done really well at the box office. So I looked at Jason Momoa, her co-star. I looked at Gal Gadot, who is in Wonder Woman. I looked at Ana de Armas, who was in
Blade Runner?
Thank you, Blade Runner. I looked at Zendaya, who was in Spider-Man, and I looked at Chris Pine, who was in Star Trek and also Wonder Woman. About the similar age range, all attractive actors, all with good acting skills, all able to do stunts. So there are not that many actors to look at who do superhero characters. So it was a small pool to work from, but I took a wide range from those actors, both men and women, to see what could potentially happen to Ms. Heard's career.
Do you consider all of them to be identical for purposes of measurement?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, no two actors are identical. You can only look at that within a range of characteristics and work history, management team, and so forth.
And we've heard from Mr. Banya. Did you review Mr. Banya's Q-score analysis regarding the comparables you used?
Yes, I did.
And what, if any, opinions
I have to say,
have you
but this
formed
is
in
just
reviewing Mr. Banya's
play stupid
analysis
games,
regarding the
win
comparables
stupid
he
prizes.
selected?
Sorry.
So Mr. Banya looked at calendar years to assess what happened in December of 2017 or 18 or 19, what happened in June, what happened in a very specific time frame, which works on some statistical analysis. But when you're talking about actors and their relationships to Q-scores are related to the actor's viability in the consumer's mind, if you will, how well known or how much they're coming up in conversation. And so Mr. Banya did not look at time periods of the actors that I compared them with to the film when it came out, so like right after the success of their big film, what was their Q-score, but moreover, he just looked at them in a year range. So it doesn't coincide from actor to actor just because you look at it over time. You have to look at it specifically after each of those individuals' box office success with a particular film. You look at the Q-score high or low during that, and then you look at how low it drops, say, a couple months afterwards, and then if it comes back up, if they have another film or another event that brings them into the
Top right,
limelight again. So it's not about time, it's related to a specific activity or event, and he did not do that.
Okay. What did your comparison show in terms of films that those actors had been in since their breakout roles? I'm talking about the comparables.
In terms of their, I'm not quite sure I understand.
Well, what happened with these other actors after they had their stars
Unrelated to
moment?
Q-scores.
Right.
Oh, okay, sorry. So all those actors' careers, the ones I mentioned, they all either were a steady rise or even a meteoric rise in terms of where their career went after their Star is Born moment, and they got some other good films, and maybe they got another film that performed extremely well. So it was a range, but they all were on an upward trajectory without a doubt.
And what does this mean for Amber?
With a reason, I mean, the way that the kind of industry works is usually, unless there is a force majeure or some really negative event, her career should have followed that same upward swing in about the same time frame, give or take 6 months to a year. But it would be very reasonable to believe that her career would have been on an upward trajectory.
Unless she did something stupid.
Of those other actors.
Right?
What, if any, comparisons did you make respecting endorsement
What
deals
could
of these
possibly
actors
go
within?
wrong?
Again, all those actors that we've talked about all did multiple endorsement deals after their big movies or after their big series of movies. You know, Jason Momoa is on, you know, Rocket Mortgage and Harley Davidson, as well as, you know, 5 or 6 other companies. Zendaya is Lancome and fashion and water and jewelry, and Gal Gadot and Chris Pine and Ana de Armas. They've all done either a couple or many, and all of them have associated with a large brand. Unlike Amber, who hasn't even been able to work on the one contract that she had. She certainly didn't get any others.
So what did your analysis show with respect to Amber Heard's losses, but for the Depp
Yeah.
Waldman statements?
Outlandish
They're
comparison.
significant if we follow the trajectory of her, you know, colleagues.
Well, let's start with at Aquaman 2. What would she have realized there?
Well, as I stated earlier, so from Aquaman 1 to 2, it went from $1 million to $2 million, right? So that was a pre-written contract. It doubled. So the agents were very excited after the success of Aquaman to go and negotiate a much higher fee like they did for Jason Momoa. They weren't able to do that. So in that instance alone, it was more than likely a $2 million loss just from that movie alone.
Oh no.
2 to 4, you'd said before?
It could have been 4, it could have been 6.
Objection leading.
Sustain.
Okay. What about other films?
So once, as Amber's agent, Ms. Kovacevic, I was doing okay. Ms. Kovacevic said that once you get that quote of the $2 million from Aquaman 2, that kind of was like the baseline for any other movie she would have done. So any other studio movie would have started from there, and depending on the success of Aquaman and how much press she did, maybe she worked on another great director, independent film, whatever, that $2 million for a studio film and had it jump to $4 million.
The movie didn't do well because of the acting.
That then would have been the
This
basis.
is just pure delusion.
Any feature studio film that she would have done, any big budget film, would have been the basis at $4 million, and then most likely have gone up from there if she was able to get others, which she should have, just like the other actors.
Let's talk about TV for a minute. What would those losses have included?
Well, On the Stand, which was, you know, about the same time as Aquaman, but got the press and the promotion got cut off because of the defamatory statements and the negative campaign. She got paid $200,000 an episode on The Stand. So
Guys,
on a TV
Tobey
series
Maguire
of
went
9
hard on
episodes,
Spider-Man. What about
it's
after? He did a couple
$1.8
good
million.
movies, but
So if she had, again, done other TV shows, it's very likely that whether she worked with a streamer or with one of the networks, that fee would have gone up from
like,
there.
come
Her
on now.
agents would have been able to use the leverage of the success
It's
of
a superhero.
Aquaman 2
It's a fan
to
base.
put
It's an
her,
ideal.
if she had
It's
done
a
another television
story.
show, given rise to even a higher episodic fee. Some actors go up to $1 million an episode. Jason Momoa's in his TV show got $1 million. So there's an exponential range of where she could have gone.
All right. What about endorsements?
Same thing, you know, all the other actors were doing over the course of a couple years period, you know, anywhere from 5, 6, 7 other endorsement deals. And Ms. Heard realistically should have gotten endorsement deals in other categories. L'Oreal is makeup, so probably not in makeup, but maybe water or clothing or jewelry or wellness, or it could have been anything else. And so she too
that's
should
a lot of
have,
projections.
with a reasonable degree of certainty, gotten other contract deals based on the success of the films that she's been associated with and the TV shows she's been
And
associated
what would
with.
that have translated into in terms of dollars?
So in terms of dollars, okay, so if it was $1.5 million for L'Oreal for a 2-year contract, and let's give her 4 other $1.5 or $2 million deals, which all those other actors, you know, especially the ladies, have gotten, then you're looking at an additional $8 million of income over time. I'm not saying this is in one period. We're looking at
speculation?
as far back as the defamatory statements of 2020 to now, which is almost 2 years. And again, as I said earlier, even when this is quiet, it will take 3 to 5 years for her to rehabilitate her career if she can. So we have to look at it as a period of
Massive
a minimum of
delusion.
5 years.
Holy.
So when I say $8 million for endorsement contracts, it would have been over time.
What if any
Holy.
losses relating to production or film activities?
Well, again, these other actors that we looked at, and there's a wide range of them. Some of them did bigger films and some of them did gigantic films, but it is very reasonable to assume that once you are in an Aquaman style film, you'll either continue to do those, right? Some of these franchises, as we know, go 4, 5, 6 films, or she would probably have been in another studio film that had nothing to do with Aquaman. But again, so over the course of 5 years, it's very reasonable to consider that she would have been in at least one film a year at a minimum of $4 million, because that's
What a
what her
crazy
price would have been
events
had she
for one
renegotiated. And
virtue
it's important to
signaling
note that
dog
in
shit
her
op-ed
Justice
article.
League contract, if there is a Aquaman 3, her price is set at $4 million. So it's very reasonable to assume and to believe that if she did a film a year for 5 years at a minimum of $4 million a year without any negotiation, which probably would have happened, but let's just say that baseline, that would be another $20 million over that time frame.
What, if any, opinions do you have about Amber Heard's earning power over time?
That it would continue to rise. It's customary in the industry, as I've talked about earlier, that the negotiations, especially with her agents at William Morris, her fees would have gone higher. So I'm just using the baseline without any ability to foresee in the future that I already know she got negotiated for $4 million from Aquaman 3. So if we use that as a baseline minimum, but it very well would have gone up had her agents done the work that they wanted to do.
Oh, wow.
So combining all of these opinions and calculations that you've
Surely.
had, what, if any, range are the losses you are estimating for Amber Heard but for the Depp-Waldman statements?
Right, so again, it's really important that I looked at, and hopefully you understand this, that it's over time, right? So let's just say a minimum of 5 years that we're going to talk about these losses, and it could be more.
Wait.
But at minimum, if you look at the film,
How many?
the television, and the endorsement contracts, it's very likely that Ms. Heard should have earned between $45 and $50 million over that time period.
Are all your opinions to within a reasonable degree of probability or certainty?
Yes.
All right, thank you
The
very much.
L'Oreal deal was 20
Go ahead and
days.
take our afternoon recess,
She
ladies
says,
and gentlemen.
okay,
Do not do
this
any outside
lady
research.
is
Do not discuss this case
off
with
her
anybody.
rockers. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, you can step down. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I appreciate it, ma'am. Go ahead. This minor court is still in session, please.
The L'Oreal deal was 20 days. Imagine, for 1.5 million. She says it's 7
All
deals.
right. So let's come back at 4 o'clock. We can do that, all right?
Thank you,
4
Aaron.
o'clock.
Right? That would have been 140 days out of 365 of just sponsorships. That is absolutely insane. It was 2 years. Even then. Nobody buys that. That is still absolutely insane. Just no shot. And then she says, that over how many times? 8 years, 7 years? These projections. So it's all possible stacked deals plus acting deals compounded with increase, right? With even over all these years. Dude, fuck off. Absolutely no shot. These people they're smoking something. No, I lost my art from earlier. Okay. Well. I don't know pokey things about this. Sure, I'll call her. Uh-oh. Oops, wrong person I called. That was weird. Sup, Greek? When the show is over, it should be last like another hour or something like that. I think they're probably gonna stop whenever they hit like the next like point or whatever. Also, I think this all ends. I think closing statements on. So are you still watching or not?
Yeah, I watched that bit.
That I'm gonna be honest. That was kind of boring.
I mean, it's not spicy, that's for sure.
Well, also because that lady is on my opinion, lethal dose of copium.
So, yeah, my chat was saying she sounds really biased, but does the information that she's giving sound accurate or not? It's hard to say until they cross-examine her, or I don't know if Johnny Depp's team plans on bringing on their own witness.
What do you mean?
Their own, like, industry expert to, I guess, give their opinion on what they felt were the causes for these people's declines in their careers.
Am I an old frog?
It is much easier to show decline than loss of potential. That's just not even debatable.
Yeah. Did you hear what she said when she was like, he didn't have Pirate 6, so how could he have lost something that he didn't have?
I mean that lady is I think she's dishonest also.
You think she's dishonest?
Oh, absolutely. Either it's cope or just maybe they actually believe that. Yeah, I mean she's major cope. Wait, you think that her projections make sense?
I think they're generous. Did they say that she was going to testify for Johnny's side as well, or did I misunderstand?
No shot. Absolutely no shots. Not with the way she's talking. Absolutely not. I'd be.
My chat is saying yes.
She is super biased. Why, you don't think she's biased?
Oh, no. I think she's going to testify for Johnny's side.
Why, real shit?
I'm pretty sure she will.
No, you mean that she's gonna get crossed?
I don't know. At the beginning... Oh, she did already. What did she say when she testified on Johnny's behalf? She's supposed to be an independent expert for both sides. Did she say anything that was favored towards him? Because obviously a lot of what she said right now was favored towards Amber.
It was massively favored.
She testified on Johnny's losses, not on his behalf. Prior to today? I do think she brought up some fair points.
Like what?
Like the other things that movies or producers considered in regards to dropping Depp, whether it was the lawsuits, like him, instead of it just being the op-ed, it was the fact that he tried to sue her and the things that come up during these trials that were kind of an issue for them.
Wait, in what sense? Oh, yeah.
Oh, like the UK lawsuit where he tried to sue that newspaper.
The
For
Sun?
that publication. And then those texts about him effing the dead corpse and stuff came out. It's stuff like that that makes it hard for companies to work with him as well, which is understandable.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I just think her projections are extremely dishonest. Also, I think basically the whole success of the movie on the one actor is massively short. It's very short-sighted.
I actually spoke to Chad about that. I don't think she was trying to say that Aquaman was successful because of Amber Heard.
That is exactly what you were saying.
No, I think she was saying that Amber was involved in a successful film, and therefore her career should have kept growing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Pirates 5 was less successful than Pirates 4 because of Johnny Depp. It can be because of a lot of things. But I think it's fair to say, if you're a part of something that is successful, your career is likely to grow. It's like I streamed during the Fortnite era. Fortnite wasn't popular because of me, but my career will grow because I was
How
a
much did
part
Ember
of
pay
something
this
that was
Pokemon
popular.
woman?
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I had something about Ninja, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's evidence of both this could be true and not true for certain actors. I think a superhero being your home run when you've been acting for a while and you've been given parts is kind of like, I don't know. It's not crazy impressive. I don't know. Maybe maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, yeah, I think that was supposed to be her big moment, like her being involved in a really big thing. So I find her projections to be generous. Like, I don't think Amber was gonna take 5 different sponsors and like 2 movies and like all this shit. So if anything, I find her projections to be a little bit on the higher end, but I wouldn't say that they're disingenuous. Like, the way she explained it made sense to me. She renegotiated to 2 million, and if she didn't have so much negative press, I could see her going to 4, and then I could see her doing one other movie. And she had a $1.5 million contract, so if she did like 4 more of that, I would anticipate like 20 mil. Her saying 45 minimum, I think, is a little bit high, but the way she explained it still kind of makes sense.
Wait, that much? That much?
What do you mean?
I think her coming off of a superhero movie, which is a lot about the fan base, a lot about the comics, a lot about the legacy, a lot about a lot of things, right? And her not, I mean, I get it, she's one of the main actors, but her not being the Aquaman, and saying that her career would have blown up out of proportion when the movie, in terms of acting, I think, did poorly. I mean, yeah, it was a successful film, and the acting was pretty bad, and I think
I think now we talk about her acting in a more negative way, but you heard she was talking about how she was preparing for this fighting role. She was working out like 5 hours a day with someone teaching her to do all these moves and shit. So we're talking about this hypothetical where her involvement in the next movie was really large, because you know they cut out like all of her scenes, right?
Yeah.
They mentioned that they cut out like her cool fighting scenes and the majority of her scenes.
Yeah, so what?
So let's say those scenes stayed in. Yeah, her career probably would have grown exponentially.
I don't necessarily agree.
Why not?
Well, it's a superhero movie, literally.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's like
Yeah.
not as good as other movies, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot about other things than acting, and superhero movies that they've shown that this is true, right? Overall,
Yeah.
right?
But
it's good that you
it
can have
makes
good
someone
acting.
so popular. Being involved in a movie like that?
Does that mean that you're a good actor and you're gonna get good roles though? That are gonna not.
No, but you could do a bunch more commercial roles. Like, you know, The Rock? Would you say he's the best actor in the world? No, like, you kind of know what you're gonna get when you see The Rock. But he's been involved in enough stuff that, of course, he makes a butt ton of money. Because people like him. And typically, when you're involved in a franchise,
He's been around
where
the.
there's
He's been around the block though. He's been around the block.
Yeah, so they're acting, they are talking about a hypothetical where she has been around the block. So like 5 years from now. And 5 years from now, when did Amber Heard start acting? Let's say like 2008.
A while.
That's still gonna be like 15 years in. That'll be quite a long time. 5 years from now. Wait, that's like 10 years. Yeah, that's like 10 years in. Anyway, so ultimately, I'm just saying, I do think she would have started making a lot more money. Have you watched the most recent Batman?
Yes.
And you know, is it like Catwoman or something?
Yeah, but I think she's gonna have a weird, which is weird.
Why is she weird? Yeah, Zoe, her.
Why didn't she like do some weird shit?
I don't know, did she?
Yeah, I heard she did some weird. I heard she did some weird shit. It's kind of a Jaden Smith thing where like she's kind of like predatory type of thing. I think that's what I heard anyway. I mean, I don't want to be weird about it, but
Monka. Well, listen, I don't know, but don't you feel like after her role in Batman, albeit being kind of smaller, she looked fucking cool. She did a bunch of action scenes. So I'm sure she's gonna keep getting like really large roles and making a lot of money.
Yeah, but roles in what though? What kind of movies?
I don't think it matters what kind of movies because movies will pay a lot. Like, this is not about how good of an actress she is. Because again, there are plenty of mid actors that still make a lot of money because they've been involved in like cool projects.
Yeah.
I really think The Rock is like a perfect example.
The Rock,
he's not
The
a
Rock
crazy
is a
good actor, but
The Rock is a world-class entertainer.
sorry, I would not compare The Rock to Amber Heard. I am using The Rock to give an example of an actor that doesn't necessarily need to be good at acting.
Yeah. The thing is that The Rock has been a lead actor in a lot of movies for such a long time. And WWE proven entertainer. And he's built that consistently. Right?
So do you
having
think
one good role isn't a home run for 8 years of success. Think about all the superhero movies and actors that were part of them that just hardcore fell off. How are those not a good sample size or a good sample to use?
Well, like who? Who?
I know. I had the idea of Tobey Maguire was a good one.
Who?
See?
What did he do?
Spider-Man 1.
And then what happened?
I don't know. You tell me.
Did he not want to work?
I don't know. Life happens. Shit happens. Is he a masterclass 800 mil a year juicer? According to projections made from Spider-Man 1? No. But
well, yeah. So that's the point of projections. On the low end, she could be a Tobey Maguire, top whoever that person, and make $0, right? I think what this testimony suggested is a bit high. So let's say the high end is she makes 50 million in 4 years. Because I think she was saying like around 5 years, something like that, like
50 million in 4 years.
So yeah, let's say that's the high end. Would the reasonable projection be in between, like 20 mil?
No. Life can happen. I think projections for somebody's entire career is very disingenuous to make when you haven't proven yourself as somebody who has at least a certain amount or a certain block of good shit. Having one pseudo home run isn't I'm gonna be rich and slam forever the rest of my life. I think that's just so cringe to do as a comparison.
Okay, let's say you took the stand here. What would you project? That without all the negative press and all the stuff that happened,
I think
what would you project that she was going to make in a 5-year time span?
Probably a Aquaman 2, grossing probably maybe a little bit less than Aquaman 1 and giving her a lot of money. Then a falling off Aquaman 3 probably, right? With a couple of these in between that are about as good or about maybe a bit better than her L'Oreal. Then depending on how she does in her acting, not her projections.
You didn't hear sound mix.
See what you can get from that point on, based on her performance, which has shown in the past not to be fantastic.
Objection, non-responsive. So I asked you, how much would you expect her to make in a 5-year time period?
5
Just a
years?
number.
Anything can happen. I don't know, 25 mil? 20, not 20,
That's
25.
literally what I said. I said about 20 mil. Listen, we're not saying that's for sure what she would make. But, you know, you're on the stand. You,
Depends.
like, as an expert.
Depends. I think
I would also
according to these
guess
projections
a
of
lot less than
going
she
perfect.
suggested.
Yeah, 25. If anything goes perfect, but I mean,
I would say perfect is like
she couldn't stop herself from trying to
35.
get some Twitter followers with this crazy article, which is why she's here in the first place. So I don't know. Maybe not as stable and easy trajectory as maybe we think it would have been. If she's literally losing everything to an op-ed, who said she wouldn't have lost everything to somebody else? Something else.
Well, wouldn't you also
So
say
you
Johnny lost
repeatedly
everything to an op-ed?
testified
So who's to say he wouldn't have lost?
Johnny
everything to
had
somebody else?
everything to lose. She had everything to gain. That's a completely different story.
Miss, you don't have any
That sounds like a
knowledge
good
whether
beginning
Mr.
to
Depp
a movie.
Okay,
knew
I'll
of the
send him.
All right,
statements that
gotta
Mr.
go, bye.
Waldman made. Do you?
Only with association with Mr. Waldman, correct?
You don't know when the first time Mr. Depp learned about those statements?
I don't know.
No. And the association you're talking about is that Mr. Waldman worked from time to time as Mr. Depp's attorney, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
Uh-oh. That was not even a crazy question, was it? What did they get mauled, man? I think somebody having everything to lose and having everything to gain puts two people at completely different perspective and different. It's a whole different ball game. It's not even close to comparable. It's why I say it's easier to see and quantify downfall than it is to predict potential based on the random projections of compound or comp of other actors of other similar movies. Like, it's cherry-picked data, bitch ass. It is literally cherry-picked data. How does that apply?
All right, and I understand that you're testifying as a damages expert and wear two hats, talking both about Mr. Depp's damages and about Ms. Heard's purported damages. Let's talk about Ms. Heard's damages first. You understand that you have to testify as to damages that resulted from the Waldman statements.
There
correct?
you go.
That was my analysis.
Most of your testimony, however, was just simply testimony about things that occurred after the Waldman statements.
That's what I was tasked with, yes.
Right. The mere fact that there were activities after the Waldman statements doesn't establish that the Waldman statements caused any damages, does it?
When you look at the time frame of when the Waldman statements came out and you look at what was going on with Ms. Heard's career prior to the statements and what happened after the statements, it's very clear to make that correlation that they were caused by those statements and the campaign
I
that
guess you
followed
could call
afterwards
that
in
a
terms of the
coincidence, like you said
social media.
earlier. Just
All right,
unlike
that's
your
an
timing.
interesting thing because the witness this morning actually described the notion of what's correlation and what's causation. And correlation does not imply causation, does it, ma'am?
I'm not an expert in semantics.
Okay. But you're an expert who is purporting to say that Ms. Heard lost between $45 and $50 million. And I'm trying to understand where you put the link between the Waldman statements and all the other activity that occurred since then.
True.
As I stated and very clearly wanted to make sure that everybody understood was that it was a time frame between which the Waldman statements were made and the negative decline in her career started happening, and in discussions with her agents and her publicists, there was a very tight timeline and a very close link to when those statements came out and when everything started pulling away from Ms. Heard.
Right, but what you're talking about is just a link in time. You do not put any causal connection between what Mr. Waldman purportedly said and the damages that Ms. Heard purportedly suffered. You have no idea whether Mr. Waldman's statements caused any damage to Ms. Heard, do you?
Well, actually, both the words in the statements were used as hashtags in the campaign, as well as when the statistical and the investigative analysis was done, on the social media campaign, it turned out that 1 in 4 of the statements had Waldman or Waldminion in them. So that was another connection that I was able to make between the defamatory statements and the negativity that the studios and the product endorsements and the television and the press connected as well.
All right, let's start with first principles. If they're true, they're not defamatory, correct?
Again, that's outside of the scope of my expertise.
Say,
All right, let's then go back to what you just testified to, and I think you said the Waldman statements appeared in hashtags.
I said words from the Waldman statements appeared in hashtags.
Right, and the hashtags that were analyzed, however, don't have the Waldman statements
true.
in the hashtag.
I've also seen them online myself.
Oh, wow.
Well, but the
evidence.
analysis that Mr. Schnell did, he looked at 4 of them, right?
That was Schnell's analysis, and I do believe I remember reading that, yes.
All right. And the 25% that you just raised, that's Mr. Schnell's analysis. You didn't do that. He did it.
Correct.
All right. So you know what Mr. Schnell did. And he didn't look at hashtags that contained the Waldman statement words.
Say-
He looked at justice for Johnny Depp, right?
That's one of them, yes?
One of them, of the 1.2 million hits that you
Say-
talked about, that was 900,000, 984,000.
Well, also in my conversations with Mr. Schnell, we talked about all of the words that were in the statement that also appeared. So what he wrote in his report and what I had in my conversation may not have been the same thing.
Say-
Ma'am, I don't want to hear about your conversation with Mr. Schnell.
It's part of what I relied on, and I'm allowed to talk about that.
All right, so your conversation with Mr. Schnell, let's move beyond that and let's talk about what the other hashtags were.
She got mad.
Amber Heard is an abuser. That's not in the Waldman statement, is it?
Nope. It doesn't imply it.
The fact that she was called a hoax can be related to Amber Heard as the abuser, but no, those words were not used, correct?
Right. And we just don't like Amber. That's not in the Waldman statement.
Correct.
All right. And Amber Turd is not in the Waldman statement.
Correct.
Right. None of those things are. And in terms of the use of the words fraud and hoax, that appeared in only 6.5% of the millions of tweets that Mr. Schnell analyzed, right?
I don't have his definition or his report in front of me, but we can look at it together if you'd like to.
Right. And you said Waldman appears in 25%. Waldman or Waldminion.
According to Mr. Schnell, yes.
No, all right. But if that's your only evidence, however, that any of this activity has any link to Mr. Waldman. Is that correct?
Well, no, we also look at the timeline because those campaigns were not active prior to the Waldman statements, and then they started appearing, so there's some connectivity there as well.
Mr. Depp bears no responsibility for the social media campaigns. He doesn't. If the social media campaigns caused Ms. Heard to lose her ability to generate income, that's not the Waldman statements. That's a social media
I'm going to
campaign.
object, Your Honor. May we approach?
Okay.
And they're getting mad. They keep approaching. Why? Just say your objection, bro. I mean, I don't think he's wrong with his line of questioning. I think it's pretty decent. What even happened? Chat, in reality, not forget the court. What happened for people to start tweeting that shit? Was it actually the Waldman statement? I thought that Waldman statement was like nothing. That was like garbage. It's so small. The leaked audio. And who got the audio? I've never seen that before.
All right, so I'm just looking for all evidence of the causal connection that you claim exists between the $45 million in damages that you assert and the 3 statements made by Mr. Waldman.
Well, I also looked at Ms. Heard's career after the divorce proceedings and other lawsuits